Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're going to read not very interesting verse. Sorry. I mean, you'll see why. But anyway, we will recite it. Shishuka Vacha Ya Esha Uttanapado Manavasyanu Varnitaha Vamsha Priyavratasyapi Nivadhanri Pasatama Shishuka Vacha Ya Esha Uttanapado Manavasyanu Varnitaha Vamsha Priyavratsyapi Nivadhanri Pasatama Shishuka Vacha Ya Esha Uttanapado Manavasyanu Varnitaha Vamsha Priyavratsyapi Nivadhanri Pasatama. If someone would like to recite. Shishuka Uvacha Ya Esha Uttanapado Manavasyanu Varnitaha Priyavratasyapi Nibodhani Pasatama. Anyone else? Shishuka Vacha Ya Esha Uttanapado Manavasyanu Varnitaha Vamsha Priyavratasyapi Nibodhani Pasatama. Shishuka Uvacha Shishukadev Goswami said, Yaha, which, Eshaha, this dynasty, Uttanapada, of King Uttanapada, Manavasya, the son of Swayambhuva Manu, Anuvarnitaha, described, following in the footprints of previous acharyas. Vamshaha, dynasty. Priyavratasya, of King Priyavrata. Api, also. Nibodha, try to understand. Nripasatama, O best of kings. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shukadeva Goswami continued, O best of kings, King Parikshit, I have now finished telling about the descendants of the first son of Swayambhuva Manu, Uttanapada. I shall now try to relate the activities of the descendants of Priyavrata, the second son of Swayambhuva Manu. Please hear them attentively. Dhruva Maharaj was the son of King Uttanapada, And as far as the descendants of Dhruva Maharaj or King Uttarapada are concerned, their activities have been described up to the point of Prachetas. Now Sri Shukadev Goswami desires to describe the descendants of Maharaj Priyavrata, the second son of Swayambhuva Manu. Om Ajnana Timirantasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvyaiva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, Hare Krishna and welcome to today's class, which will be a little bit different because I'm not going to continue on the stories because I didn't have time to read about all the descendants to get into the story. So I chose an easier path in a way to speak about the importance of hearing in spiritual life. Because anyway, in this verse, Shukadeva Goswami says to Maharaj Parishik, now I will describe to you. So there is an importance in hearing. And the perfect example of a person who got purified and liberated and went back home, back to Godhead, is Maharaj Parikshit, because he was the perfect hearer. So today, I would like to speak about why is it important to hear and how it affects us, and how the scriptures actually, they confirm and emphasize all the time how hearing is important, and hearing every day. Because I'm talking now from my perspective as someone who lives at home, very often we neglect the reading and hearing part. But actually that's the most important part in our spiritual life. And it's also important to say that when Krishna describes the great souls in the Bhagavad Gita in verse 9:14, where he says that there are people there are persons who always chant his glories, and they endeavor with great determination, bowing down before him. And these great souls worship him perpetually with devotion. So this chanting of his glories means kirtan. And as we know, kirtan means chanting, and more specifically, the word kirtan means describing. So you can describe the glories of the Lord with music, which we do by chanting the Mahamantra, but also various bhajans, which describe the Lord or the mood of the devotees in their devotional service towards the Lord. And you can also describe in writing, so you can describe in speeches. Any sort of describing, that is called kirtan. And the devotional service begins with Shravanam Kirtanam. So first we hear, and then we speak about Krishna. And this is important because that's the only thing in this age of Kali that will guarantee us immortality. And that's what one of the verses, I don't remember which one, of Srimad Bhagavatam actually says, that both by rising and setting, the sun decreases the lifespan of everyone in this world, except the one who hears the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is actually the only space in which you are free, in which you are free of all karma, actually, because you're totally dedicated to the Supreme Lord. And we will see, I will actually enlist 7 benefits of hearing about Krishna, what it means in our life. But that's the only safe place to be, actually, in this world, because it allows us to remember Krishna all the time. And so Srimad Bhagavatam says that there are 7 benefits to one who hears Krishna Katha. And you should do it every day, without exception. And I was thinking about it, I will read it and we will go through them, but I was thinking about it how sometimes, we hear, or we chant a little bit of kirtan, but then we go to our everyday lives. But if we don't have still that consciousness which we had when we heard about Krishna, where in all the other activities we remember Krishna, if we forget him because we do certain things, we are not in that space that guarantees our immortality. Because there are some statements here that we will read, and then some devotees might ask themselves, like, but I don't see it like that in my life all the time. And I don't know, in my experience, and you can also share your experience, maybe we are not doing the right endeavor regarding the hearing, so that's why we don't have these results, which are the benefits of hearing. So the first benefit of hearing Krishna Katha is that all astrological inauspicious positionings in the chart are destroyed. So all suffering is basically destroyed. And this is like the question that someone might ask themselves, yeah, but I went to this astrologer and then he read my chart, and this is really what happened in my life. So how come like that all these inauspicious things in my chart are destroyed, but actually they're happening here? So we will see throughout other benefits how this actually happens in a life of a devotee. So everything that is inauspicious astrologically is destroyed, like your karma is destroyed. That's the first one. The second one is that the joy multiplies. So this is what I heard from a lecture of Amarendra Prabhu. He said, like, if you have 10 units of happiness written in your astrological chart, that means that it will multiply by, I don't know, 10,000. So that's what you'll get when you hear constantly about the Lord. Then the third benefit is that, of course, the heart gets cleansed of all anarthas. Your reaction to life are better. Any situation that comes, actually you can react to it very calmly, and you can be always happy. And it is also described how the greatest devotees, they surprise challenges that happen in their life. And then I heard one challenge that Amarendra Prabhu described, that one Srila Prabhupada's disciple had when giving a lecture, I forgot where. So he was giving a lecture in a full temple room, and then there was this one lady, and they think that maybe this lady had some kind of mental health issues because she was acting in a very strange way. And then in the middle of the lecture, she just rised up and she went to this Prabhu who was giving a lecture, and she took the cup and she poured the water over his head. And this Prabhu said, like, oh, Srila Prabhupada says, he gives an instruction that actually we should take bath 3 times a day. And I only today took it 2 times. So thank you, Mataji, for giving me this bath so I can remember the instructions of my spiritual master. So this is a wonderful example of how a devotee who is very mature and of course senior, but also mature in his practice, don't have to be senior actually to be mature, but how a person reacts in a challenging situation. And that's why it is said that a devotee, when he or she has that mood, he can surprise all the challenges by its reactions. And that is what is described actually in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says that if we hear, certain things will happen in our spiritual life. And that is that the devotee becomes fearless, which is described, there are verses in which it's described, like from first chapter, verse 19. Free of lamentation, tolerant and undisturbed, resolute in purpose, transcendental to 3 modes of nature, peaceful and happy. Of course, devotee also attains love for Krishna. By hearing, he can cross the ocean of miseries and see all beings equally, check the forces of anger, as we now see it heard in this example, renounce sense enjoyment, curb their restless minds, unite intimately with Krishna, become free from doubt, remember Krishna, find relief from miseries, and be joyful. So all these things that actually we can acquire just by hearing is something that Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita. And Srila Prabhupada also says many, many times that, for example, the beginning of Krishna consciousness and devotional service is hearing. All people should be given the chance to come and join devotional parties so that they may hear. This hearing is very important for progressing in Krishna consciousness. When one links his ears to give oral reception to the transcendental vibrations, he can quickly become purified and cleansed in the heart. Lord Chaitanya has affirmed that this hearing is very important. It cleanses the heart of the contaminated soul so that he becomes quickly qualified to enter into devotional service and understand Krishna consciousness. So that's the only way we can enter into this devotional service and try to reach the platform of pure devotion. So first was that first benefit was that inauspiciousness disappears, then happiness increases. The third one, that the heart gets cleansed of anartha. And the second chapter of first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam very nicely describes this, like what's happening to a heart of a person who hears the glories of the Lord. And that is that he definitely transcends the modes of nature, gets situated in the mode of goodness, and from there he can advance spiritually to one day see Krishna. The fourth benefit is that, as we mentioned in what I have enlisted so far, that the pure devotion at the lotus feet of Krishna arises. So definitely, if we hear about Krishna, we get to know him more and more. And the love increases in our hearts. And some people may ask, like, how can I love someone that I don't know? But we know the potency of Srimad Bhagavatam and also the potency of hearing about Krishna. And there is an example of Queen Rukmini. So she was a perfect example of how by hearing one can actually develop love for Krishna. And that is what we are trying to do. We can be in this mood of Rukmini and just hear about him, and then cleansing our heart, we develop and increase love for Krishna. And this love for Krishna is anyway in our heart. It just needs to be revealed through this process of chanting. Also, the benefit that happens is that all the scriptural knowledge live in the heart of a devotee who hears about Krishna. And the knowledge, we hear about it, but after a while, there is no need to go and check the scriptures about certain things that are happening in our life, because we get this knowledge from within. So Krishna gives it. And that's also the benefit of this kind of purification. The sixth benefit is that while living in this world, the people who are, or the devotees who are constantly hearing, they will constantly seek Krishna in everything they do in life. They will never forget Krishna. So we can start from, I don't know, seeing Krishna everywhere, as in all the elements everywhere in the world, as the sun, moon, and so on. But also Krishna in the heart, Krishna in the other living entities, because we know that other bodies are the temple of the Lord. So therefore, Krishna is situated there. And all the souls are parts and parcel of Krishna. So, as Srila Prabhupada says, everything that exists around us actually is Krishna. So this is what a person can see if the person hears all the time. The seventh benefit is that by hearing we become detached from all the allurements of this world. And you can see that, I think, in your own practice of spiritual life, that if you compare yourself, not with others, but with yourself, what you were at the beginning of Krishna consciousness, or even if you were born in a devotee family, you can still see through the years progress. So you compare yourself to someone you were in the past to someone you are now. And then you can see how you have improved in your spiritual life, how really this inauspiciousness, they have disappeared because of this attitude that the devotee has, that he gained actually through purification. Also the joy multiplies in our lives because we become more happy by practicing Krishna consciousness. We can see that little by little these anarthas that we carry in our hearts, they are disappearing, and they can only disappear if we hear about Krishna. Pure devotion is increasing. There is some devotion, because otherwise for years we wouldn't be here. And we do understand that there is some knowledge that we have. It doesn't come only from, I don't know, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from other people, but we get some instructions from the heart that are coming from Paramatma. And we can see Krishna in our life. I think every one of you, if I ask you how you see Krishna in your life, you can have an example where you see him. And also, you can see that you are detached from many things. I sometimes think that I'm not detached from many things, but then I come to visit my family in Croatia who are not devotees, and then I can see that I am mostly a lot detached from many things that before I was attached like them. So I can see also this process is working in our lives. And in this lecture that I listened from Amarendra Prabhu, I liked how when he was talking about this verse that I also mentioned, how by rising and setting the sun decreases the life of every living entity on this planet. He said that the sun is a thief, but actually the one who is smart, he will take the shelter of the supreme thief, and that is Krishna, and then he will hear about the supreme thief, and therefore he will prevent this stealing of the sun of his life, and he will actually, through the mercy of the supreme thief, reach immortality. So the place of hearing is the place where we can actually reach immortality. And I found something that maybe some of you already heard. It is from Skanda Purana, Srimad Bhagavat Mahatmya, where it is described in which way we should listen to the scriptures. And the scripture says that the topmost listener is he who comes before the speaker with proper respect and is eager and expert in hearing of Krishna's teachings and pastimes. He has rejected all mundane topics. He has faith in the Supreme Lord, hears submissively, always contemplates the knowledge he has heard, and likes to ask relevant questions. So that's the topmost listener. And there are superior listeners listed in the scriptures. There are 4 of them, and there are also 4 of inferior listeners. So I will mention first which are the inferior ones. The first one is described as wolf. So wolf. Just as a cry of wolf frightens the deer, attracted by the sweet sound of the flute in the forest, the foolish listener whose questions and comments are source of frustration and pain to the other listeners is called a wolf listener. So that's quite interesting. So basically, if someone is immersed in descriptions of Krishna, but there is someone who's always disturbing the nectar that is flowing, that should be considered to be a listener that is called a wolf. Then the second type of a listener is compared to Burunda bird. I don't know if I said it correctly, but it's spelled with BH and Urunda bird. So Burunda bird. So just as this Burunda bird that actually exists, because I googled it, in the Himalayas, she tells everyone whatever, the bird tells everyone whatever it has heard without doing anything himself. So this refers to a person who repeats what he or she has heard to others, but does not practice it himself. So that's kind of, a listener is also an inferior listener. So we speak about certain topics, or we preach to others how they should live their life, but actually we are not living that at all. Then there is an inferior listener who is described as a bull. Just as the bull does not distinguish between eating sweet grapes and pungent oil cakes, the person who listens to everything without intelligence and discrimination is called a bull listener. I would compare it to, Bhagavad Gita is nice, but yes, this New Age stuff is also nice, and then this mindfulness is nice, and then Buddhism is nice, but then also this is nice. I would compare it to everyone who takes everything that they hear around them. But of course, some topics from all of this that I have enlisted now can be also used in Krishna consciousness, but still we have to have some kind of a discrimination, what is good for us and what is actually not good for us. And then the fourth type of an inferior listener is a camel. So just as the camel rejects sweet mango leaves to chew bitter neem leaves, one who listens to Krishna's teachings and then eagerly listens to mundane topics is called a camel listener. That's me, because I have a tendency to do that. Like I eagerly listen to, I don't know, Srimad Bhagavatam, and then I can switch to something else, which is nothing to do with Krishna. So this means that all these positions are inferior, and we should try to become superior listeners. And these kind of listeners can be successful in their spiritual life because they have this taste for higher topics. So the first type of listener who is considered superior is Chataka bird. A Chataka bird does not take water from any source other than the rain cloud. One who does not hear any book other than scriptures is called a Chataka listener. So I was hearing many descriptions. Chataka bird is also described when we are talking about the love of the gopis and their like total concentration and meditation on Krishna, because Chataka bird also is very much concentrated on her life partner, that's one thing, and also never takes water from anywhere else than the cloud. So this is also like a loyalty in a way, and dedication to this one source of nourishment, and that is Krishna. Then the second type of a superior listener is a swan. So we know this metaphor, all of us heard it. So just as the swan can extract milk from a mixture of milk and water, one who can extract the essential teachings while listening to various topics is called a swan listener. So he's extracting the essence of what we have heard. Because sometimes, the Vedas are very big, vast amount of literature. So we have to be expert like swans to extract the essence. And even in our rules and regulations in Krishna consciousness that we have, sometimes people, they are too much focused on rules and regulations, that they do them just for the sole purpose of following the rules and regulations, but not considering the essence of it, and that is to always remember Krishna and never to forget him. Then the third type of a listener is a parrot. Just as a parrot can recite whatever it has been taught, one who is able to properly repeat topics he has heard from his teacher and others is called a parrot listener. So this is Shukadeva Goswami, in a way described like that, because he repeated perfectly what he has heard from his spiritual master. So in the same way we should be like that. What we have heard from the scriptures and from our authorities, spiritual masters, or inspirational devotees, we should also repeat it like a parrot, precisely in what they wanted to say. Of course, extracting like a swan the essence of it. We cannot sometimes repeat word by word by what we have heard, but we can extract the essence and repeat it to others. Then the fourth type of listener is a fish. Just as a fish that is situated in an ocean of condensed milk quietly drinks milk without even blinking its eyes, one who quietly listens with full focus and relishes what he hears is called a fish listener. So I don't know if you can imagine that, but I can. Like someone who really like this in front of someone who inspires him, not blinking an eye. And that means that the person's focus is really on the subject matter. So these are the ways in which we should listen to the scriptures and understand their importance. And that's why sometimes we should tolerate some verses of Srimad Bhagavatam which might not be interesting to us. For example, when many descendants, or if I said it wrongly, you can correct me again, descendants of certain kings or certain dynasties are enlisted in Srimad Bhagavatam. For me, it's like, oh my God, why am I reading that? But actually, just hearing about their names purifies us. And especially in Chaitanya Charitamrita, if we hear the names of the devotees that were associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it brings a lot of benefit to spiritual life. I think, what is his name? Vamsidas Babaji, I think. In his book, it said that if you hear his name, I think you become liberated or something, just by hearing his name. So that's the importance of hearing this transcendental vibration and knowing about these great personalities. So that's, as we said, the beginning of spiritual life, where we have to hear and we have to be concentrated and focused on what we are hearing. And through the process of hearing throughout the years and every day, we will reach that immortality. But also, what is important to stress here, that it's not just enough. Some people think like, okay, I'm just going to sit and I'm just going to hear to someone. But we also have to understand what hearing actually means. And I just want to find that. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Jaiva Dharma, he describes two types of hearing. One hearing is casual hearing, so here and there I a little bit hear about some authority, but then I go my own way. And then there is actual hearing. And actual hearing is what Srila Prabhupada describes as a real surrender. And that means that when a devotee aspiring for Lord's service hears the pure instructions of his self-realized spiritual master and faithfully practices the disciplines such a guru recommends, the devotee gradually becomes pure in heart. So it's not only that we casually hear about some topics of Krishna or how to practice devotional life. Actual hearing means that what we heard, we apply in our spiritual life. So, I don't know, if we hear about humility, we try to apply humility in our life. If we hear about determination, we try to apply it in our lives. If we hear about that the Yuga Dharma for this age is chanting of the holy name of the Lord, then we chant the holy name of the Lord. So we practice all these things, all these instructions given in the scriptures about self-realization. And why is that important? We are purifying our hearts. And we are purifying our hearts so that Krishna may one day be situated in those hearts. And it is described in the scripture that before we see Krishna, like face to face, Krishna first has to come to the heart. And then from the heart, he comes in front of us and gives us his darshan. And when we see Krishna, we actually see everything. So all the conclusions of the scriptures are leading to Krishna. And when someone has realized Krishna, like for example, Lord Brahma, when he saw Krishna, he didn't just saw one personality there, he saw everything. He saw his associates, he saw spiritual worlds, material world, and everything. And then he was able to be the second creator in which he created this material universe. And there is a verse in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, in chapter 4, text 51, that says, "Except by direct experience, no one can rightly understand Vaikuntha, no more than this can I actually describe." So the point is that I don't remember who was actually describing, because it was many personalities. It was not Gopakumar, but maybe Narada Muni. It doesn't matter, but the exalted personality was describing Vaikuntha to I don't know if it was Gopakumar or someone else. But anyway, so describing the Vaikuntha, and we can hear the transcendental vibration, and maybe some glimpses of how it might look like can come into our mind. But actually, to really understand what is Vaikuntha, what is Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavan, we have to have direct experience. And direct experience is given by Krishna through his mercy. And how to get there? Through hearing, right? But then, when we hear, we have to faithfully practice the disciplines that the Guru recommends. And then the devotee gradually becomes pure in heart. And when his faith sufficiently matures, then he can see the spiritual world. Only by that direct perception does knowledge become perfect. Casual hearing, even from those who have seen the truth, like even if Srila Prabhupada or someone who is very pure is in front of you, Narada Muni, even if you hear from them, it's not enough. You have to practice what you have heard. So one must become a disciple of such an authority and accept the disciplines that lead to self-realization. And sometimes devotees especially when they don't have a spiritual master, they say that I don't have a spiritual master, I don't have an authority. We do have an authority because authority is the one who speaks about this transcendental knowledge. We have Prabhupada's books, so who is an authority in Prabhupada's books? Srila Prabhupada. So we can accept him as a Shiksha Guru and follow his instructions and accept the disciplines that he recommends that leads to self-realization. Anyway, all the other gurus, they speak the same things. So this is the beginning. We already accept the discipline. And then when we become a little bit more serious, we really look for the spiritual master, take initiation, and so on. And there is one more verse that says, from Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that says that even if one has the opportunity to hear, as we described so far, the whole spiritual world being revealed by the words of the self-realized guru, still the candidate has to qualify himself and earn the right to realize it by dint of his own surrender. So, yeah, even if we are sitting next to someone who, I don't know, if we are sitting next to Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and they have, the spiritual world in their hearts, they see absolutely everything. Of course, we will get a benefit of their association, but we have to qualify ourselves to have the same vision as they do. And this vision is acquired through practicing spiritual life. Just that I see. And this example, that's also important, that these teachers that transmit this knowledge are also an ideal example that will help us understand the proper mood required to see the spiritual world. So it's not only enough just to hear, we have to also get into the mood of how we should serve, how we should hear, so that we can actually one day see the spiritual world. Yes. So this is all that I have prepared so far. So maybe if you have some questions or comments regarding what we have said, maybe you can comment.
Hare Krishna. I remember one devotee saying that sometimes as we suffer from this thing called nectar indigestion, that we hear a lot, but to apply everything, it's or to even just contemplate everything, and is sometimes difficult.
Yes.
So you said that we have to hear and then apply, but it's easier said than done. Just you can explain the philosophy in few seconds, but
yes.
Then to put in practice is a lifetime mission. Can you comment on it?
I agree with that. Especially if we, for example, have to, for me, that's how I'm now saying from my experience, we have to develop the qualities of pure devotees in some sense, like humility, and then that's not happening. So in a way, I'm not fulfilling what is the instruction of the spiritual master. That's just one example. Yes, but here, in this example, there is a process here, and Rupa Goswami in Upadeshamrita, he says that we should have patience, humility, and endeavor with determination, right? When following the instructions of the Guru. And only time, and Krishna is time, will see to it, through time it will be seen that we are applying these things. It will become natural to us. I sometimes think that because we are spirit souls, all that is described here in the scriptures and all the qualities that the pure devotees have, the soul has. So every one of us, we have this, but it's covered. And only through hearing and chanting the holy name of the Lord, so that's what we should do. That's the Yuga Dharma of this age. Little by little, this will shine out from us, and we will be able to follow. Because I think in your own life, you can see that at the beginning there were certain things you couldn't follow, But I think that now you can follow some things that you couldn't at the beginning. So you can see the change. And also, sometimes it's not about the externals, because devotional life is an internal endeavor. So everything actually happens inside of us. The mood, the proper understanding, the consciousness. So even though maybe sometimes we cannot do certain external things that are maybe required by the scriptures, that doesn't eliminate the intention of the soul to please God. And I think Krishna takes the essence of it, right? Bhava Grahi Janardana. He takes the essence of our intention and takes that, even though we are imperfect.
Thank you very much for your lecture. May I add some small thing? I think His Grace Buddha Bhavana Prabhu was describing it very nicely once, that actually the hearing process is not done by just sitting and hearing, of course, as you told, we have to contemplate. But he was saying that it is there are 4 steps actually, and that we have to hear and we have to think about it, reflect on it, and see what we can really change about it in our lives, and then actually try to do it. And also, if it's hard, we can always ask other devotees for guidance or for like some thing that we can do about it. And then he was mentioning that actually the most important thing is that we pray to Krishna that he will enable us to change ourselves, because like when I'm seeing on my short life, like I'm really not able to change myself on my own. I really depend on others, so especially on Krishna. And then we know that Krishna is the ability in men, so actually when he wants you to change, then you will be able to change, but we can just do the effort. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for adding.
And I found the point very nice that you said, we really have to qualify ourselves to hear, and it is so important to have this proper attitude, the proper mood to read or to hear. So could you maybe share a bit about that? Like, how do we really get into this mood of attentive hearing?
So it says that we should hear with attention, with humility, with sincerity, with seriousness, curiosity, eagerness, patience, gratitude, thoughtfulness, persistence, respect saturated with affection, great and abiding faith, unalloyed love for Krishna, and a service attitude. And that's also very important when approaching Srimad Bhagavatam and all the other scriptures, but especially because I learned it in the example of Srila Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam. If we approach Srimad Bhagavatam in a mood of service towards Srimad Bhagavatam, because hearing is actually service, and understanding everything that is written in the scriptures is also, in a way, service of our mind, which means immerging our mind into Krishna. When we have this service attitude, that we are serving Krishna through this, then actually a lot of things become revealed to us in this hearing process. So, just like in chanting, like they say that we should be concentrated on the names and focused and not go around with our minds. So in the same way, we should hear Srimad Bhagavatam and understand that, as Amarendra Prabhu said, actually it was his spiritual master who said that no, actually, Gaur Govinda Swami. He said that the Srimad Bhagavat is our best friend. And then one devotee from the audience said, but how do you mean? How can we understand this, that Srimad Bhagavatam is our best friend? And then he says, because Srimad Bhagavatam never lies. So it will never disappoint you. That's one thing. And the other thing is that it's, how you say, literally incarnation of Lord Krishna. So Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna. And in my experience of Srimad Bhagavatam, it was like when I read Srimad Bhagavatam for the first time in my life, it was amazing. Because everything I read, like certain situations that were mentioned in the scriptures, they would happen in my life. So I was reading it, and outside many things were happening that were like confirming what was written in Srimad Bhagavatam. So there's also an interaction. So that's also how you can understand who is Krishna, and that Krishna is actually here, and that there is a certain interaction between you and Krishna himself as a person, and then Krishna in your heart, who is also situated then there, and then Krishna on the altar as well. So everything becomes like connected. And because we are not so pure and concentrated to chant the holy name of the Lord, which is actually enough to understand everything, but since we are not on that level, we need all of these other things so that we can one day come to that level. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Shishi Gaur Nitai Ki Jai. And also, like, if you want to relish the nectar, if you want to understand at least what is a glimpse of the nectar of Krishna, you also need to hear. Like, because when you hear, you become so happy, like, and you just get into all these moods. And I think I can always give that example of that retreat we went. I don't know if you went there to Loka Pavani, but not this year, but last year when we were there. That was like, I was like, oh my God. It was only 3 days. I was thinking like, I don't want to leave. So if this hearing process, you saw that Parshad, Hari Parshad Prabhu, he would recite, we would all recite with him, but he would recite just one verse. And, you know, if you are a painter, and you are, in this case, you can paint the whole picture out of the verse, right? So this is like, this is what gives the nectar, and that's why whoever speaks about these things, because sometimes to myself I sound stupid, you cannot maybe understand what the person is speaking, but if you have a direct experience of like what we felt when we heard all those topics, then you can understand what I'm talking about, like that there was certain nectar, you were very happy and you were focused like a fish, you didn't blink. So so that's what happens when we properly hear. And yeah, and we should do this every day. And then if we do this every day, then we will reach one day immortality. And that's how we will overcome death as well. So it was very nice example of my god sister. I didn't know her personally, but she was suffering from cancer. And the only thing that she was doing in last months of her life was constantly hearing and relishing. And because this nectar was flowing through the hearing, she transcended death in that. She transcended the pain and all these things, you know. And she because of the hearing, she became detached from the suffering that she experienced. I mean the suffering of the pain in her body. So that's the only way we can transcend death. And also there are examples of more exalted personalities in the scriptures, like Haridas Thakur, who was beaten on 22 or 21, I don't know how many 22 marketplaces. And he even pretended he was death so that he can give relief to people who were beating him, because it was an order from this Kazi, right? That he was supposed to die. And then he said, but you won't die. So they were quite frustrated. And if you don't die, then we will die. And then he exhibited some mystic power, and he pretended he was dead because he was in this way compassionate towards others. But this is the only way he could have done that, is of course because he is a pure devotee. But these pure devotees, they are immersed in the topics of Krishna, the nectar. And that's how they can transcend all these things. And of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like protected him, and he was actually taking the beatings upon his back. But still, I mean, this is what happens. And when Raghunath Das Goswami was meditating, and when Srimati Radharani came, he was meditating in the scorching sun, and then Srimati Radharani came and she put her sari over him to protect him. So this is what's happening to the devotees who are immersed in the hearing. They are protected by Krishna. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Srimad Bhakti Prasthana Nityananda Krishna Pada Krishna Prasad Krishna Nikada